Hello, my name is Claire. Welcome to Lisa Horton Crafts. Today I'll be using the Collage Florals paper pad and the Petite Petals die set to create this card. I'll also be introducing the Scalloped alpha dots, and I shall be using this to add the sentiment to the card. So Lisa's Collage Florals paper pad come as 24 single-sided sheets of paper. They're all loose leaf within the sleeve here. We have 8 designs and we have 3 designs of each. So to create the petite petals on the card today, I'll be using Lisa's Euphoria premium glittered cardstock. I'll be using the silver sheets that we've used here, and you'll see how beautifully this die cuts. So the card I'm making today is the DL shape card. It measures 21 centimetres in height and it's 10 centimetres wide. This is the sheet of paper that I'll be using from the Collage Florals pack. And I shall be taking the largest die from Lisa's Nested Stitched Slims collection to die cut a section. And I've die cut that already, and we can see that we have the beautiful stitching around the outside. So I have my DL card, I have my piece of design paper, and I shall mat and lay this onto a piece of contrasting coloured card. I've cut this layer using the largest die from Lisa's Slimline cracked frame collection. So I have my DL card, I have my piece of design paper, and I need to mat and lay this piece of design paper onto something contrasting. So I've used another of Lisa's Slimline collection, the Slimline cracked frame, and I've cut the larger outer layer from a contrasting card to create the mat and layer. Now the beauty of all of Lisa's Slimline collections is that the largest die from each of these Slimline die sets will allow you to create a mat and layer for the largest of the nested stitched Slimline dies. So next I want to show you how I created these small flowers. I've used the Petite Petals die set. The set actually contains 5 dies. They come connected, but for ease of use I've actually separated these myself. I've run this section of the die through the die cutting machine with a piece of Lisa's glitter card, and you can see that that has actually die cut beautifully, and I can take out all of those individual flowers. I also run this die through the machine with a piece of vellum so that I can create a 2-layered flower, and the vellum adds a lovely contrast to the flower. To actually construct the flower, I have a piece of dense foam here and a ball tool, so something of this nature that you may have in your craft stash, and I'll just take one of the flowers and I use the tool and I just run that with a firm pressure onto the foam, and I just rub that ball tool in the centre, and you can see that has the effect of lifting the petals of the flower. I repeat this process with a corresponding die cut of vellum, and you'll see that this also reacts in the same way by just gently rubbing the ball tool in the centre of the flower. You'll give that flower some shape and dimension. The flower can now simply be built, and you add a small amount of glue in the centre of the flower, and I use the ball tool again just to add a little bit of firm pressure in the centre of the flower, just to make sure that the 2 layers adhere to each other. So you can offset the petals to create a full flower effect. Depending on how much you offset the flower depends on the look of the blossom that you create, and I think that way you can add some real individuality to each of the blooms that you're creating. Now you will notice also that on the die cuts we also have the centre sections for the flower. I show you the reverse of this because you can see it's very hard to see the die cut sections on the glitter card, but you can see that the actual die cut sections do pop out perfectly, even these smaller pieces like so. So we add a small amount of glue again in the centre. We can use a pickup tool and we can just add that centre to the flower and just hold that in place just momentarily, just while the glue takes. You can see we have a lovely little blossom created there. So I shall go ahead and construct all the flowers in a second. I'll just talk you through how I create the rest of the elements for the card, and then you can sit back in a second and watch how the card actually comes together. So continuing on and creating all the elements to put this card together, we have ourselves a piece of vellum that can run across the width of the card. I've already torn two of the edges, and I can just tear off the sides there to make sure that this vellum fits. So we just offer that up to the card and just tear that in that fashion, so we have that fits across the width of the card, and you can see the vellum sitting here on this original card. Now we need to create the branches for the flowers to sit on, and from the Petite Petals die set again, so I've cut myself a branch using the die cuts like that, and you can see that because we're using a different design paper, the whole design of the card is going to take on a very different feel, even though we are using the same elements. So just before I go ahead and start constructing the card for you, I shall introduce you to the Scalloped dot set. This set contains stamps and dies of numbers and sentiments. So we have one die and we have one set of stamps. Now there are a number of ways that you can stamp this out. So today I'll be using a stamping platform, and I'll be stamping out all of the sentiments and the numbers all in one go. So I have myself a piece of card, and so depending on the stamping platform that you have at home, you'll know your particular setup. So I shall remove the stamps from the backing here. Now this is one solid stamp, and it will just take a little bit of patience to remove this for the first time. So if I just show you, just initially, what you might need to do is just take your time and just slowly prise the stamp off its backing. Now the best way to do it is to not force the stamp itself, but is to actually use the flexibility of the backing that it's sitting on, just to prise that off gently. Otherwise you may risk damaging the stamp. Now the stamp is very robust, and just with a little bit of patience this comes away very simply. Okay, so we have our stamp plate, so we line that up on the card that we're going to stamp onto, bring over our lid. Now I should be stamping this in black today with a VersaFine plaque, because I know that this gives a lovely crisp image for me, and because I'm going onto a pearlescent card it will take a little while to dry, so I would we'll actually heat emboss this with a clear embossing powder to make sure that that ink sets and gives me a lovely crisp image. So having run that through the die cutting machine, we now have all these sentiments and numbers available to us that we can store in our envelope, ready to use on future projects. So now that we have all the elements of the card constructed and all the die cuts ready, if you'd like to sit back and enjoy, I shall put the card together. Okay, I really love how this card has turned out. I've used exactly the same elements on both cards, but just with a different colour scheme and reacting to the designs actually on the paper. Both cards look very, very different. Thank you so much for watching today. Please give this video a thumbs up and don't forget to subscribe to the channel. If you hit the notification bell, you will also be notified of any future videos that we post from Lisa Horton Crafts. Thanks for watching. Bye.